The iPhone 16 Pro has been in my pocket now for 6 months, and it's a much bigger upgrade over the 14 Pro than most people originally said. From the surprisingly better battery life to if Apple Intelligence is even worth it, I'll cover my experience thus far and if this was a worthy upgrade. Many reviewers called this an incremental upgrade, but after 6 months, I've finally formed my thoughts. Starting with the design, the titanium frame and rounded edges literally changed how I use my iPhone. Previously, in years past, I would always have a case and a screen protector because the slippery stainless steel sides of phones like the 14 Pro were just difficult to hold without a case, and they picked up scratches and smudges and fingerprints, and after a while just didn't look all that good. This is the first iPhone in years I've felt comfortable not using a case or a screen protector on. It's the perfect size phone for me and is easy to hold and very lightweight without a case. The titanium appears to be holding up much better than the stainless steel sides of the 14 Pro as well. Again, only 6 months of use is literally nothing for this phone, but having used it caseless for those 6 months, there is very little, if any, wear and tear on the titanium edges. It features the standard Apple fit and finish, so the buttons are very clicky, there's no rattles, and it feels built well. And of course, using the phone daily, battery life is one area where I was pleasantly surprised over the 14 Pro. Of course, my 14 Pro had aging battery life. It was under 80% capacity, I think, and I was having to charge it before the end of the day in order to make it through a day. After 2.5 years of use, though, with the 14 Pro, you would kind of expect that. And the iPhone 16 Pro has the best battery life I've ever experienced on a phone. Now, I don't care that the Pro Max phones have even better battery life because they add unnecessary bulk that I don't need, but that would be the case. If you want even better battery life, you go for the Pro Max. I personally like the regular Pro phone size, and this has the best battery out of any of them ever released. Sometimes I don't even need to charge at home. I can get away with plugging it in for Apple CarPlay on the way to and from work, and that gets me enough juice to make it throughout the day. And then every once in a while, I'll have to pop it on the MagSafe charger at night to get a little bit of juice throughout the night, or even before bed, and oftentimes I'll leave it off of the charger at night. This is something that I could never do with the 14 Pro, and I was always having to keep a charger with me in order to make it through the day. And as expected, the battery health is still at 100%. I keep it with the ability to charge to 100%, and I keep optimized battery charging on. And if battery life is one of the positives, then one of Apple's latest features is a letdown. Camera control. Camera control is far less annoying than I had originally thought, but it's still not super useful. We've now come out of winter here in Connecticut. It was hard to use with gloves, almost impossible to change the settings with camera control, but then also useful with gloves in the sense that you can pull your phone out of your pocket, click the camera control button, and then snap a photo relatively quickly. But the button is still pretty finicky. It's not super intuitive. It definitely suffers from accidental presses. And Apple gives you the ability to do, a double press to launch the camera and some different accessibility features to maybe make it a little easier or, whatever. But generally, I don't find that the camera control is really all that useful. For a left-handed person, the button is in an awkward spot. At first, I was picking up my phone and hitting it with my ring finger, which caused me to accidentally open the camera. And in typical Apple fashion, I was probably just holding it wrong. But it's not all negative with the cameras. Over the 14 Pro, you get Apple Log, which very easily matches the Sony cameras that I'm using to shoot YouTube videos. Maybe my biggest nit at this point is that the stock camera app only lets you do ProRes Log, which results in giant file sizes. With a 256 gigabyte iPhone, I can only shoot for a few minutes at a time before I would not have enough space to do so. From that perspective, the Pro camera really doesn't mean anything without third-party applications. Things like Halide for photo or Kino or Blackmagic camera app for video really lets you unlock the pro potential of the iPhone cameras. Those two video apps, Kino and Blackmagic, along with the Final Cut video app, lets you record Apple Log in an HEVC file type, which is just nerd speak for a smaller file size. Easier to manage, easier to transfer, and that's actually what I shoot on my Sony cameras as well. So I shoot Sony Log, S-Log3 in an HEVC file type. It's more efficient, a little bit smaller file than some of the classic video files. On the photo side, Apple introduced photographic styles. And at first I kind of thought this was a gimmick until I found some selections, played around with it a little bit, and found some that I could use for almost every photo. So this is great if you just want to have your photos have a consistent style. If you're trying to do something like, set up your Instagram grid and have everything look similar. Photographic styles are great for that. You can find one that you want, you can set it as default, and then every time you take a photo with your iPhone, it will apply that photographic style. And it's not permanent, so you can go back into the Photos app and edit it. If you wanted to have the default style or change it up after the fact, you can do that as well. It gives consistent results. The specific formula that I probably like the best is from Tyler Stallman here on YouTube, and he created this amber setup and shared how you can create it for yourself, even though it's a little difficult to get the exact settings for the tone and the contrast on the phone. If you get close enough, you get pretty good results. On the video end, the microphones are very good. They introduced some of the new features like studio mode and noise canceling. Here's a test of the built-in microphones on the iPhone 16 Pro. I'm going to cycle through a few of the different audio modes in post so you can see the differences for yourself, how these microphones sound compared to the studio mic that I'm using in this video. It definitely works to give you much better audio than before, but at the end of the day, a more professional mic solution or dedicated microphone will give you even better results than just recording on the iPhone. Generally, though, I'm pretty impressed with how these microphones do. Overall, the iPhone is still the best do-it-all camera system and is still clearly the market leader in video. While the camera hardware leaves a good impression, Apple's newest software feature leaves a sour taste. Apple Intelligence is largely still a flop here as we enter March now of 2025. We expected a new Siri at this point and a lot better results than what Apple has been able to deliver with Apple Intelligence. If it didn't have ChatGPT integration, I think it's probably totally useless at this point, but I'm rarely going to ask Apple Intelligence something and then have it direct me to ChatGPT. If I know that's what it's going to do, I'm going to go right to ChatGPT in the first place. That way, all of my chats are saved in the history there, and I can easily reference them in the future. I've used Genmoji a couple times, which lets you generate an emoji based on a prompt and then save it, and that's kind of cool, but on the flip side, Image Playground is like a total joke. What a waste of engineering resources. Visual Intelligence seems like it would be really helpful, but I haven't really played around with it that much. I have gone into ChatGPT and taken a photo of something and asked it what it is. This works great if you're cooking dinner and you have a pepper and you don't know whether it's spicy or not. That was the one thing that I used it for. So before I give you my final verdict on whether this was worth it or not, let's talk about price. This is the 256 gigabyte iPhone model in the natural titanium colorway. That comes in at a base price of $10.99. Luckily, with some family and friends Apple employee pricing, I scored $110 off. That brings it down to $989, and then the iPhone 14 Pro trade-in that I did resulted in a $425 credit, bringing my total for this deal to $564. At that price, this feels like a steal. So at this point in the year, should you upgrade? The iPhone 17 rumor mill is in full force, so should you just wait it out or buy the 16 Pro now? If you need a new phone right this minute and you're coming from the 14 or earlier, I definitely think the 16 Pro is a worthy upgrade. The titanium build, the improved battery life, the new camera features actually make a meaningful difference in daily use. If you're on the 15 or 15 Pro, you've probably made a wise choice to hold off on upgrading until the next cycle. My goal with this phone was to keep this for at least 2 years, like I did the 14 Pro. The incremental upgrades, while intriguing and while I always want them, I don't necessarily need them as long as the phone still works fine. There's always going to be a new iPhone every year, and it's always going to be the latest and greatest thing. We'll have to sit and wait and see what Cupertino has in store for us this fall with the iPhone 17 series. In the meantime, this iPhone 16 Pro is still doing everything that I want and more. That's it for this time. Thanks for watching, subscribe for more, and we'll see you in the next one. Later.